In this conversation, me, Devin, and Keith explore the concept of vibe coding, its implications for entrepreneurship, and the emotional dynamics involved in tech creation. We discuss the evolution of product development with AI tools, the importance of user experience, and the nature of modern coding practices. The discussion also broke into live code generation and screen sharing to build a sober shift project, highlighting the process of building an app and the significance of validating ideas with potential users.
I'm just wondering if you guys feel like sheer joy or feel it's like, okay, this is the pace that we're moving at. And now I just have to sit down and work. And it helps with a lot of like little things that I didn't have to deal with in the past, or that I would have had to deal with in the past. It would have taken like full days. And like that's been super helpful. But like, I don't know, it's not all like once I plug this in, I feel like way better as a human or like as a worker.
My whole experience with it, one, I'm excited because I couldn't do this before. Like literally it's taking me to a place it's like, oh my gosh, I can, like if you use AI to create some of your musical, like there's AI to help create music and all, but you don't know how to actually totally compose or don't know some of the things. It's like you have this tool to help you create, and I have this creative energy, and now I have this counterpart that's helping me create this vision that I had in my head, and I'm still testing it. And while it's going, I still don't know exactly what it's doing per se. Like I could definitely do user testing and do, make sure it's working, and I'll say, okay, that's not right, that's not right. But overall, I'm impressed with it. At the same time, it's a mix of this is really cool. I'm a little uncertain because I'm not sure exactly what I'm doing. It's whatever it's producing. I don't know what the back end looks like. I can't go in and check. Like I'm not, that's not my skill set. However, it has gotten better to where it's like, hey, I would check these security things. Do you want me to do that for you? And I'm like, yes, please. And then when I run across problems, I'm kind of going back and forth between, am I getting the same answer from Lovable as I am from ChatGPT or Claude? Putting in the problems to be like, I don't know what I'm doing. Someone needs to help me out. What should I prompt to fix this problem? And even since I've been working with Lovable, they've introduced more of a coding agent, which is a little bit more autonomous. It can find bugs and such for you. And that's been helpful. But in the end, I'm still a little distrusting because I don't have the expertise to do that human approval to be like, yep, this is good to go. I can launch this, which I would still rely on Keith or, someone technical to be like, does this meet your seal of approval? I want to launch it, but I don't want to launch it just without having an expert take a look. So
Yeah,
it's kind of a mix of things. I'm impressed. I'm excited. It gets frustrating trying to troubleshoot these problems where it's like I don't know why. Like it helps explain it to me, but it's kind of fun too because I'm learning what stuff means in a real life use case. It's like, oh, a TypeScript error. I have to go look that up. What does that mean here? Okay, cool. I don't know what that means now. But at the
Yeah. And
same time, it's uncertain.
right. Well, I was gonna say too, like on the flip side of that, it's like I've never met a dev that used it to do a product requirements document or something product related and said, "Oh, I don't understand this." They just kind of go at it with like, "Oh, look, I did it. I used it to do something I couldn't do before." And I kind of want to talk about that phenomenon, which is that not necessarily something I agree with. Where it's like I almost feel that way about code now, where it's like, what is the expertise, right? Or like, what are we trying to do? Like a dev flipping around and using it for product versus a product person flipping around using it for dev. Like, how does that actually play out over in the future? Like,
I'm reminded of Paul Adams was the old VP of product at Intercom, if he's not still there. And Paul Adams has an amazing talk that's called The End of Navel Gazing in like design. But I think the talk is really applicable to what Keith is bringing up because, he speaks to how we just made all this shit up anyways, right? Like we made up job roles to give people clear separation of concerns, made up hierarchies in these product and business organizations. He made up Agile and Scrum and workflows. And then what that means is that we can also unmake them or remake them as needed. It's a beautiful talk, and maybe I'll try to link it or share it. But to Keith's point, it's like, why do engineers feel comfortable writing PRDs or user stories if historically that's been handled by a product manager or a designer? And vice versa, someone, Devin, like in your role as a marketing leader, an individual contributor, now you feel like, capable to explore something new and write code and, as in assisted fashion, of course. Um, But it's a big part of why I don't really like calling it vibe coding. Like Andre Karpathy, right, is this like research scientist and engineer that like coined the term. Vibe coding, I think, totally glosses over like what it's doing for people like Devin, right? It's assisted or automated code generation. Like it's not really vibe coding. We could be more specific, I guess, you know?
Yeah, and Karpathy like draws in my mind, like in one of his talks, he draws a comparison to where it's like he doesn't like vibe coding when he's actually trying to work. And it's like I really feel that because it's like when someone's on you and you're just vibe coding something and you have to get something delivered, it's like when's it gonna be done? And you're like, could be in the next 5 minutes, could be tomorrow.
Right. And I don't know if it's in the next 2 prompts or if it's in the next 10 prompts, right? It's going to take, it's sort of much more uncertain. But I also think what's important for people when they're approaching this space, like I really intentionally don't say vibe coding. Like I really try to avoid it because I think it is overly simplistic. And it was kind of like an offhand comment from Karpathy that sort of ballooned significantly. And I really think like we can return to the roots of, okay, I'm trying to create a business idea. I need to test a business idea. I need to validate it. And then I need to launch, right, or deliver it. And so if this is super successful at making creating business ideas easier, or just creating an idea in general easier, it's not going to solve everything all at once, right? It's like what are you hiring the tool to do for you is the key question, you know? And I think in this case today, right, we're going to actually create an idea, right? We want to go to like idea browser. We want to like find, a seed and see how fast we can create something. But we know that it can be problematic to like debug with AI, right? Like if you're trying to do other computation, like there's all kinds of issues throughout the like large language model space, right? But creating ideas, it's amazing. It is just undeniably like, you know, just almost unreal in a way for that purpose.
Totally. I was gonna say it's almost like the more opinionated you are about the work. Like I know that I interrupt the coding one far more than I interrupt it when it's doing other things, right? And I just don't. I think the answer on the PRD thing too is like that PRDs aren't really what product people care about. Like if the devs were using AI to talk to users and saying it was easy, I feel like that would really piss people.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. Where I get really frustrated is simulations of users. Like I don't buy it. It just feels like that's really what product people care about, right? Or people, empathy, intent, need. That's a really good product person doesn't live and die by their PRDs. They kind of live by their research or their ability to like process research. And I just I don't know. We could have a whole discussion around that upfront part, right? That's where I'm like, if we really keep this discussion centered on generating code, it's undeniably an amazing thing that makes everybody more capable to create ideas. But when you start to look left and right in that process is where it's like, people are simulating data and they're, replacing their users with and then on the other part, it's like this thing has all kinds of security vulnerabilities and it's not great in longer running tasks or more sensitive areas. Like, but maybe we can stay on the optimistic, lens for this discussion, maybe. And so maybe this is a good chance to transition idea browser. I don't know if somebody wants, maybe Devin, since you're familiar with it, would you want to like pull it up and screen share or kind of tell us about like why that stood out to you?
Yeah, it's just a fun. It was developed by this YouTuber and entrepreneur named Greg Eisenberg, and I've watched a few of his videos, and I don't have a strong opinion like he's amazing or whatnot. Some people may not like him, but I just think he's talked about some cool stuff, and he has this cool website that it's not totally daily, but I'm getting ready to pull it up so you guys can see. But to me, he has it set up to where AI agents are pulling in data from different sources. So a lot of it's probably automated, but it gives a fun, here's an idea that's based on some data with some standard requirements. How big's the market? What's the timing like? Is there an unfair advantage? It ranks the opportunity, the problem, feasibility. And these do change when I look at the ideas. Some are like, well, the opportunity is really a 6, the problem's, an 8, etc. Feasibility might be like 9, where it's really challenging to do versus easier to do. So he pulls in this data and ranks things, and if you want to get the pro version, you get even more data. But it's just a fun, kind of a quick one pager of, hey, here's an idea for free, basically. Run with it if you want to, or you can see the full analysis. So and if you want to go back and look at historical things, once again, it's paid. You can kind of go back and see, oh, these are all different categories. So to me, it's just a fun site. I'm like, oh, I didn't think of it that way. So that's a kind of an interesting opportunity. So today, on July 30th, is the sober shift. So if you guys just want to run with that and create some kind of an app or use this data a little bit, we can totally do that. Like I said, this is today's idea, so we can just run with it and just take this information and see what we all come up with.
Yeah, so let's talk about the idea a little bit. And I think like my process will be to run like a recorder on just this portion of our discussion. And I'll take that transcript and I'm going to pass it into Replit to show how just talking about ideas can give a really great first prompt for something. And then I know Keith, right, you're going to dive into Cursor and kind of just stand up a simple application. And Devin, you'll dive into Lovable and we can all kind of process this and see what we can create in the next 25 minutes, right? Not even like, I don't even think we should spend much longer than that so that we have a chance to like share and compare, just talk about like what emerged. And maybe it's like the first 3 to 5 turns of the prompt. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think we'll be able to get much deeper than that. So yeah, I like that. Maybe let's just talk about sober shift and see like what this description sort of what stands out to us or what it's about.
Well, I know this is a general trend from what I read, where younger people especially are not drinking as much as older demographics. There's obviously dry January, but it looks like corporate America hasn't caught up. There's not some sort of a wellness program or something geared towards that market, and even some are maybe where the alcohol culture runs deep, but wellness is also valued. So it seems to challenge, once you like bring that into the fold and make it HR friendly, but also engaging to the users as well.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting that this is like an employee wellness program is the suggestion, right? It's
Yeah.
not really it's not actually talking about like a consumer application. So I think to some extent we would want to make sure that it feels like your company has provided this benefit for you. And in this case, the business case is presented as like there are billions in productivity losses due to alcohol consumption. You think like people having hangovers are less productive the next day at work. So if they're not drinking during the week, they're more productive employees. But you wouldn't want to like slap that over the face to the user, right? Like, hey, your company is providing you this program so that you work harder, during the week. And so it seems like you have to connect less drinking and the alcohol free movement to like the health benefits, right? Like your sleep improves. I think it should give you like information about your performance at work statistically improves. You have less sick time. You'll be generally healthier. I don't really like the team competitions personally in the kind of description. It kind of says build engagement through team competitions. I'm hesitant about that because alcoholism can be such a sensitive like topic, right? Like if somebody's undergoing this wellness program, I get accountability, but I'm like a little suspect of let's all not drink for the month and like, Bobby Joe doesn't manage to make it through the month. You don't want to like call anybody out. You know what I mean?
No, definitely, and that was my first reaction to this as well. Is that it feels very illiterate or like just completely unaware of that consequence? Because I feel like the last person you'd want to know that you're drinking a lot of alcohol is work, right? Now, I feel like if we targeted it around like work events and like decreasing the amount of alcohol consumed or purchased by the company, could have similar outcomes and be a lot like more approachable.
That's a good point. At the past 2 larger organizations I've been with, there was a big push to de-emphasize, the amount of alcohol. I'd say like, instead of happy hours at a bar, can we do something that's, alcohol free? So I think it's great and it's way more inclusive to think that way for sure.
But I totally understand why this data would be valuable to a business. I mean, it would obviously save them money. So I see how this thing backtracked into an ARR recommendation. But I just
For sure.
don't know
Yeah.
if people would share that they're drinking or not with the with their company. I mean, that feels like a no.
Yeah. I like the offer here in the interface as well. This is pretty interesting. Like, yeah, you could sell an alcohol-free culture guide or provide that to the team. You could have a webinar about wellness, and then you could have the sober shift subscription. This is kind of a cool feature of Idea Browser. Offer ladder or value ladder. I really, really like this. I mean, I know I'm not going to convert to pro right now, but that's really interesting. Good job, Greg. Right? His name was Greg Eisenberg?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so does it make sense to kind of dive into trying to bring something like this to life? I assume you guys have it pulled up and maybe like would copy and paste the idea into the prompt or something of the sort.
Yeah, and if you want, I think it'd be cool to add our own individual takes too. So, like Eli, you had your, I don't want to spin it this way. That seems wrong. Keith, you echoed that, and I agree too. But maybe some other thoughts, but we could definitely do our. Like I said, I'm going to use ChatGPT to try to get some prompts and other thoughts to plug into Lovable and see what happens.
Good. So while you're doing that, I might start my screen share of Replit to show how I would begin. Let you guys start, kind of work as well. I'm kind of voicing over what I'm doing. And then maybe after 5 to 10 minutes or so, we'll spotlight Devin, just kind of see where you're started and where you're going. Let you kind of spotlight for 5 to 10 minutes, and then we'll pass over to Keith and Cursor to show that. And then maybe at the end, we just zoom out and kind of talk about what happened.
Cool. And if we spend the whole time talking about Devin's Lovable adventure, I haven't really watched someone use Lovable before, so I'm super curious. So that might just go long.
Sounds good. Okay. Yeah, so I'll kick us off shortly and let Devin get started, and then we'll let him spotlight his screen share. There we go. So while we were talking, I pulled up Replit and I had ChatGPT actually processing our discussion of an idea browser. And so what's really cool about ChatGPT now and the record mode is that it does quite a good job of capturing key points and discussion items. And so let's see here. I'm going to actually pull in just literally what ChatGPT captured. And so I'll copy it from there. I'm going to come into Replit. I'm going to paste it in. And so it captured our discussion for the past 10 minutes on sober shift. It gives us a summary explaining the concept of sober shift. And I'm going to kind of brand that. I'll give it a good name. It's a wellness program targeting employees, reducing alcohol consumption and improving productivity. We explore product feasibility, the benefits. We talked about sensitivities, which I think is really important here, actually. The key points of the discussion and sober shift and action items. So I won't belabor this prompt, but what I'm going to do is come in here and say, hey, I just want to make with Replit a modern web app that's React and Node.js. That's what I'm comfortable with. That's what a lot of our work is in. I've just become more and more familiar with it. So I'm not even going to modify this at all. And what I like about this is that it just takes kind of the collective notes. And since Replit is already designed to be the agent building, I don't actually need to tell it what to do. It knows the app I want to make, and it has details of an idea. And I'm just going to start. And what I really like about Replit is it goes into planning mode first. And so the reason that I think this strategy is really effective with Replit is because, and I'll zoom in just to make this really big, is that because the Replit agent's designed to plan, I don't need to know everything from the start. I can kind of work with it to shape this. So I've found that like a ton of people spend like 20 minutes writing a prompt, right? Like they get so bogged down and just trying to revise the prompt and revise it to a point that it's perfect. And I don't think there is a perfect. It's kind of like, perfect is the enemy of done. And so I like actually letting the agents take a lot of creative liberties, in this upfront period or upfront phase. So you can see here the Replit plan on the left. It drafts an initial version. And so my app's going to have an anonymous wellness tracking dashboard of health benefit and education modules, of progress tracking for alcohol-free days, wellness tips and resources. I actually don't think anybody reads those, so I'm going to delete that. I don't really like that. Optional goal setting for privacy. Again, I think it should be like mindless. I don't want people to have to think about it as much as like they should receive a benefit from their company. So I'm good on goal setting. We can make that different. Supportive anonymous community features. Nope. I don't want to reveal people's struggles, issues, problems, goals, happiness. Sleep and energy, I think, is really interesting. Like when I stopped drinking, my sleep totally changed. My health totally changed. So I like that. And then directory for professional help, dope. I didn't even think about that, but yeah, let people get help. So you'll see here as I was making those choices, the Replit agent revised the plan and also gave me a visual preview. It feels a little basic, the welcome. I like the privacy alert, a progress tracker, alcohol free days, current streak, sleep quality, energy levels are good. The weekly progress, it looks like that kind of chart is broken. So I'll make sure to actually modify that as well. I'll say make sure the weekly progress chart is. The one problem that I've noticed with Replit is it has this weird input bug with the capitalization. So Replit team should fix that. Let's see. Learn and discover. We're going to strike that. Daily wellness check-in should be closer to uh, the chart and tracker. We can complete check-ins. We've got quick actions. I think maybe we'll see. But we also need to do a better job of making sure that people understand this is a benefit provided by their company to really visualize our ideas. So I'm saying make it more clear that the employer provided this program as a benefit for free access to counseling and resources. And so at this point, I think I've got a really good revised plan. Something that I like to do always with Replit is turn on the agent tools. I don't really have a concern about cost, so I tend to like to use the high power model. It's just going to be more accurate, more effective. It takes a little bit longer, but it's just that much more reliable. I'm going to actually turn that on. I typically spend probably like right now as a replacement for Figma, I'm spending $150 to $200 a month on Replit just personally as I'm sketching and drawing and using tokens. So I'm going to send in that revised plan. And once that gets done processing, I'll show kind of what Replit creates and kind of the way the system worked. And then maybe I'll invite Devin at a screen share, take over screen share, and we'll kind of talk about what you're working on in Lovable here in about 2-3 minutes.
Well, I'm turning away on cursor over here, but I'm excited to see what Lovable's up to.
Yeah, me too. Man, I've been so impressed with Replit. Like the plans are getting better, the visual previews are better. I'm not even gonna wait for the visual preview. I'm just gonna go ahead and approve it and run just so we can see. So a nice smooth transition. You can see the preview building. I mean, it just absolutely blows my mind seeing these things get made in front of me. I remember the hours long like Figma sessions, just trying to like draw something or even like in Sketch passing files between people. I'm like, my goodness. So it looks like it's having some layout issues here first, which I guess is actually just a visual preview. Sometimes this gets sorted out after the final pass. But for people who don't really know Replit, the preview shows you what is being created. You can continue on an agent conversation or start other processes and tabs. So Replit over the past month and a half, or sorry, year and a half, has gotten way better. I mean, what used to just be kind of a collaborative coding environment is now full stack, everything from database, object storage, LLMs, OpenAI integrations, assistant integrations, documentation. It's really just amazing. Plus Git and other integrations. There's just so much to explore here that I think there's a future of a single tool, single kind of place for this type of work. No more kind of bouncing through multiple systems, hopefully. I would love to see a direct Cloudflare integration here, like if we could just interact with our Cloudflare through Replit as well. I mean, publishing prototypes and making prototypes available to clients or customers is just seamless. It's just amazing. You can also view the code that's being written. I know like Devin insinuated a little bit about how that's a challenge sometimes. And, I think for me, as I'm waiting for this to be created, what I really like to do is follow along and watch the journey happen. And so I'll actually come in and read the schema while it's going to take a moment to generate. So I think it's really easy to get distracted and like go read Twitter is my biggest issue, right? I go on X and I start looking at the news and I come back after 15 minutes, and I think the agent's still going to be running. And I realized that the agent only ran for 3 minutes and I just wasted 12. And that's something that I want to get like much more dialed in on. Like if I can just keep an agent running for a full 8 hours a day, there's going to be a lot of work that gets done, in that time. But so I really try to be diligent about looking at what's being created, building an understanding of the code snippets. If I run into a question, I'll just pull up ChatGPT, and ask discussion, like kind of have a dialogue with why the app would be doing this at that time. So it looks like it's actually almost done here, or we just need a couple more moments. But you guys can actually see it's doing a pretty interesting job so far. So I wonder if I can open a preview in another tab. It looks like it's going to take a moment. So we got a dashboard, we got check-in, learn, files got fixed. It kind of looks like some of the layout issues here. You can see like we've got a weird nesting of the nav and the scroll bar. But this is like kind of the moment where I'd say like, do we really need learn? Do we really need check-in? What's the model here? What is the user journey? Like, how could I personalize this? Like all of these things keep coming to mind, as I first sort of get into this. So I get a progress chart. Yeah, wow, it's building quite a lot still. Maybe this is a good chance. Oh, well, mine's still generating. Devin, do you want to take over screen share? I'd love to check in with you and talk about what you're making with Lovable.
Yeah. Let me share the old screen here.
And then we'll see what Keith has managed to make in the background there.
Like it. So what I did, I basically just went to Idea Browser. I just copied this whole thing, mostly pulled the text, and then I plugged it into ChatGPT. And this prompt wasn't, I could have spent more time on the prompt to maybe get a more specific thing, but basically I just said, I create an app based on this information, just kind of saying more positive oriented, not shaming people, kind of like we talked about. Asked it for any clarifying questions to help me build out this great technology and business document idea. Kind of gave it a persona, amazing entrepreneur, UX designer, consultant. Thanks for the help. I just like to give it positive feedback, even though people are like, you just wasted tokens or energy. I'm like, well, I still like to motivate my LLM. So then I fed all that, and it did send me some clarifying questions. It's like, hey, great. So I just answered these really quickly. I would just plug them into a Word doc and just answered them myself with just my own personal information, my own thoughts. I didn't do much research, obviously. So then once I copied that back in, I just copied all the answers. It's like, great. Here's a tagline: healthier habits, happier days, zero shame. Maybe a little intense with the zero shame, but
Yeah, right.
but still, it's like, hey, I like the first two, healthier habits, happier days. Like, I'll take the first two. That's pretty solid. I did do this, and so I'm like, great. I could have maybe copied this, but then I like ChatGPT because it tends to ask questions at the end, like it's sort of an open ended. It's like, hey, do you want me to turn this into a lovable product spec? I'm like, yes. And I'll kind of say this: I haven't tested to see how well it works, but I always kind of say, please turn this into the prompt document with a high chance of being understood by Lovable and creating a useful product MVP. I haven't tested to see if I don't put that in and make sure it's really understood and really has a high chance of being creating a good thing. So basically, I just copied this. So I put this in the Lovable prompt doc. I just copied the whole thing. I like it because it gives like a one-line vision, the core problem, but then it also breaks it out into MVP feature set, kind of I didn't even ask it to do this, but it gave me potential ROI reports and brand tone, etc., monetization. So literally, I just copied this, and then the prompt ships as well. So I didn't check this that much. I just, for time's sake, I just took this whole thing down to here and copied it, Lovable. So it's been building, and here we go. It was building for like I don't know 5 minutes, but I haven't checked this out at all. So we can just go from the beginning. I like the colors, soothing, kind of focused on the 30-day peak performance. I do like that. Very positive messaging. So you can start your journey. It does have the HR dashboard I don't know if I would lead off with that as like the homepage, but maybe like a different call to action for HR. But like I said, this
Yeah,
is the
there's
first time.
like there's an employer sign in
Yeah,
versus the end client. I like
yeah,
that. Mine didn't even capture that dynamic as well as I might want.
but yeah, private advice kind of got the key thing is no judgment, real results. So very safe place. So like I had said, I haven't clicked on anything yet, so we'll see what happens. All right, start your journey is not there. But yeah, the buttons are there. Let's see if I put anything in features. So once again, for a first pass, it looks like it hasn't connected any other
Just start your
page.
journey work or anything.
Yeah, I don't think, let's see. I'll just scroll down. I don't think any of the links actually work, which is interesting, but I'm okay with. But it does have some nice layouts. I like these the clarity scores, sort of the benefits, choose your
Yeah, that
tone.
I like that actually.
I did do this because even there was a question in there, what tone would you like your coaching style? But I'm like, why don't we let the user pick?
Choice. Yeah,
Yeah,
give
it's
them
just
choice.
someone might like, well, I want it to be more nurturing. Someone to be like, no, I want like a football coach, or whatever. And here's your progress. But yeah, today's check-in. So it's kind of what I've noticed happens sometimes with Lovable as well, is it puts a lot of information on the long page, and that some of it should be maybe on a different page or like done in a different way. So this to me maybe might be more in the how it works type of a thing. And so I may just have it shift things around. But for an initial build, I think it's pretty solid. And from here, let me see what the last thing it said was. So it even asked like, do I want to go ahead and connect Superbase to have a backend and start doing data, or I could just go ahead and like I could do GitHub as well if you use fancy people that it may already be built in there. But I just use Superbase because it has I could prompt it Lovable and they could do things in Superbase. There's a connection there for the backend side of things.
Yeah, so I'm curious if you tell it, let the agent implement maybe like a sample like application beyond the landing page. Like maybe we can let that agent run on what its interpretation at this point of like the actual product would be. That could be interesting to just let it see what it manifests based on the marketing page you've made. And also, I guess one comment I wanted to share is that like there was a period in time where I would have told tons of businesses or entrepreneurs and solo founders, this is 100% enough to learn about your idea. Like you could go take this to interview target customers, you could show businesses this, just the landing page alone, right? And see if does the value proposition resonate, what's somebody's willingness to pay, do they have like what's their pricing sensitivity, yada yada, just on the value proposition and like a really well done first landing page, like the front door test, I think is what David Bland calls it. So you don't necessarily need to make the product at this point. You could, because now we have these AI tools, but a decade ago, you should stop here and learn, right? If you're on the right track.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a good thing to, and because it's so quick, you may add one more feature to be like, well, how would someone start their journey? You know, like just give it a little prompt there and just take the next step and just see how people resonate. So, but to your point, I agree of getting user feedback early. And if I was really serious before I did all this, I would actually, it's fun to do this, but I would go ask people even before I put in prompts, like, what do you think about this idea? And that's kind of what I did with my other idea with the travel agent space. I asked travel agents, like, here's a problem I'm thinking of. Is this a real problem? Etc. Even before I did any stuff. And that would make the prompts more accurate and give a better description about what the problem solution is. And maybe people say, like to Eli's point, we're really more focused on this piece of it versus another piece. Like we don't really need to see I don't even know what it would be, but we don't want necessarily challenges. We just want a consistent check-in and more of an emotional check-in, etc. And maybe it ties in with their other ERG programs or ESG. Sorry, I forget what they're called. ERG, Employee Resource Group. Yeah, but maybe they have like the other wellness programs where mental health is a big thing. It's like, well, this could tie into that and be more supportive.
Did you put in the prompt explicitly? I know you did show the prompt explicitly to have an HR dashboard and like a consumer journey, or is that like Did it just figure that out?
Well, let's see. I put in, I don't think I had any. It was in the prompt chips. So it did have,
Okay.
it said build an HR dashboard with 3, suggest 10 daily prompts. So it didn't really do a lot of this because this was probably just too much. And this is, this was the very first, I kind of threw everything at it. So this was the whole deal. And that's kind of why it's like it got a lot of it. But
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like I based on yours, I actually prompted mine here in the background to go ahead and add that front page because mine just jumped to the client or the employee app. It didn't even capture, that HR would need to like sign in and what their dashboard would be. And so what I like about doing this in groups, right, is like at the end of this, we could have 3 competing ideas that all have shared characteristics or qualities. You could ABC test them, and hell, you could A to Z test something if you really had the infrastructure. You know what I mean? So, kind of to your point of like, oh well, I would actually ask the questions first before even going to Lovable or some assisted development suite. Personally, I like being opinionated and like going ahead and having these high fidelity designs for people to react to because I feel like you go so much further faster because it's really easy for somebody to say, no, I don't like that. I'm not interested. And it's like less difficulty to just cut it out. Right. So I'd rather like throw the wall at them and then cut to find the value. It's just kind of I think it's a different workflow than it used to be.
it makes sense too. I can see that as well.
Mhm. Keith, what
Keith,
about you? Yeah, what do you got back there?
That's a good question. So my guy's still working, and I can kind of give an update on what he's doing. Although I don't
Yeah,
have.
show us cursor. Just kind of talk us through what you're doing.
Yeah, so there's a chance it dings. Hold on, let me actually just tally up or queue up my screen share.
I will say my Replit landing page is not anywhere near the Lovable landing page. Like the Lovable landing page was like friendly and had this like background, and the Replit one is much colder, which is interesting.
Right? It's just American versus European, man. It's just like I don't know what
Well,
else.
and it's just what you're opinionated about, right? Like Lovable is very opinionated about style. I find like or it's like just
And in America, we love enterprise compatibility.
or actually I should say Lovable is trendy, right? Like they like trends and they stay contemporary or they stay current. Where I feel like Replit is just using Tailwind V3 all the time. Yeah, it's just the same design system. But go ahead, Keith. Sorry, tell us what you've kind of been up to, and then we'll kind of wrap up.
Totally. So I can kind of just quickly walk through it because mine's in the middle of it, but it shows you the things it's trying to do. So it's pretty cool. So what we've got here is that I just recorded the call that we had where we talked about it. This is the summary of it. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't review these things. I just threw some thoughts at it, and I want you to show that that's the level of care I put into the product
No,
aspect.
same here, right? So I literally copied and pasted it. Yeah.
Copied and pasted it, and then I copied the entirety of the page and pasted it in there as well to give it additional context, and then an image as well. And then
Mm,
I told
that's
it.
a good idea.
Only thing I told it in my prompt is that I'm Keith. So like it was like you guys said my name multiple times, so I was like, that probably work. Yeah, so then it threw it on the canvas, right? And then I said, can you make this an app that's more targeted at the Gen Z demographic? I don't even know. I have to go back to the version that was there, but something made me say that where I was like, I wanted it to feel more Gen Z because I mean, Gen Zers are by far off alcohol. That's where these trends are coming from.
Right? They're all doing pills and smoking weed.
I mean, yeah, I don't know if there's data to back that up yet, but that is my firsthand experience.
That's my hypothesis.
But yeah, so I said that, and then I made it Tron theme in colors because I like to make things Tron themed because that's my favorite type of theme.
Yeah, that's Keith's like go-to first style.
And so it wrote that out, and then yeah, and then
See,
I
what's interesting about this is like, see how yours already starts going into schema, API endpoints, the like directory structure. Like, did you tell it to do that, or does it
that's
know that that's
but I did tell it to do that in the prompt. Yeah, so all of my apps are in Express and React. And so I referenced a specific one that I've been working on recently, but I could also have not said that. I'm almost positive. And with the memory feature, it knows how I like my code.
See, that's what I think is interesting is like if I could take Keith's memory structure and be like, build this like Keith would, or Bobby, or you know what I mean? Like that would be super helpful.
So then what I did is I then took that and put it into Cursor. So you'll see it's actively working. It failed. No, that is a terrible feature. Sorry, I want it to finish. Now I queue that up. Okay, so if I go back up here, I don't really need to show like what I did. I basically pasted that prompt in there. And what I did before that was load in a template that we have that is like just a base level of front end and a back. It's actually the same as Replit. It's like the same shit I've been coding in. So it's just a React front end and a Replit back or a Express backend with a Postgres Neon database, right? And so
which is basically what Lovable is as well, just with Supabase as the back.
I basically just self-defined something that Replit defines for you. And so kind of our own. And so in the background, what I did is I spun up the database instance so it has auth. And then when it actually tests, if this works, this is pretty cool. It'll start like testing live and I can watch it do it. But it's not at that step yet. That's the last step. And so it doesn't have it running right now. So it's like it could turn it back on or it might not, and we'll see what it looks like. But it's actively in the middle of this of like 6 of 13 to-dos. And so it's like doing the design.
What is the to-dos feature in Cursor? Where is that coming from?
I don't remember if I turned that on, but I've had it for quite some time. It's when I say I'm watching the agents, that's what I'm talking about. I'm just watching it go through these to-dos.
Very cool. I don't get that in my interface. Maybe it's because you're on the nightly build.
I don't think I'm on the nightly build anymore though, because their nightly build fell behind, which is wild.
Yeah.
But you'll see that like, but I fucked it up or I effed it up because like the test basic app functionality, right? Like I accidentally sent that prompt that crossed that off when it didn't do it. Little things will mess it up. But it's going to go through and do these and it'll be pretty close to a real app. And then when the tester starts running, it'll go through and fix things like if the database isn't updated with data, etc. And I brought over all the Cursor rules that I already have about writing stuff into these things. So it should mirror pretty close to like my expected standard. But just like you would in like Replit does, it actually is following the same more or less template as Replit. So it like uses Drizzle for the ORM. So it writes out the schema and the database tables and things. And so this is literally just doing what Replit is. I've just flavored it and have a different view.
Yeah, and Lovable does the same thing. It's just in the background. Like, Devin, you can't actually browse the directory or the file structure in Lovable, right?
If
Or can you? I just haven't used it enough.
Yeah, I can see you can go to the code. I don't know if I can do it and watch it like I might be able to. I haven't actually tried that. But
you
there
can't
is
sync with GitHub, right? So that's how you could access the directory of like files or do manual updates.
But I could still do that. There's a little button, there's a code viewer, so I could definitely do that. But like I don't because it just is all a foreign language to me. But if I was like Keith, then I could definitely be like, oh yeah, I see what it did there. I see how it structured it, or I could even give it to be like, I don't like this structure, do this other structure. Like I said, I'm just trusting it to build the best way. Like I really don't put it in that standpoint.
Right.
Yeah, I don't really feel like I need to personally, right? But that's why I collaborate with such engineers.
I like to have the control over like specific things. So like, I know this is a jammed ass screen here, but like this is something that's in my Cursor rules that's supposed to be applied, right? I know it says apply manually, but it was applied manually earlier. These rules are like how I want the agent to test the endpoint, right? So it'll be like, I'll actually run it. So like if you go up here, you'll see that my thing is like doing things like actually testing the endpoints. Yeah, like right here. It just did it. Yeah, right here is where it starts to do it. Like, so here it pings the front end and sees if it's pulling the correct like HTML, and it pings the back end to see if it's getting the right responses, and then it's code based off that. And so I have like a few things set like this. All this stuff would be like the AI would either not do it or Replit would have like a system template to make it do stuff like this. But that's in the background without even telling you as well. And so I just kind of have like a view and probably too much control to where I would argue I might not even be more effective. I mean, I'm not done yet, although it will be a little bit more complete when it's done.
Yeah, I see what you mean, because you've already got auth, you've got your database, you've got testing in all off like a single initial prompt, basically.
And the key is that if anything breaks from this process, like this, know how to fix it. It's very key.
It completed. Let's see it, and then I think that'll kind of bring us home. Let's see.
Like I would has problems. See, yeah, it's got an issue.
Well, let's see if I would love to see if we can, get it up.
Actually, watch the testing because that's pretty cool too.
Okay.
because the tab's going to discover the error I just saw and it'll fix it.
Yeah, and I just want to be mindful of Devin's time. I know we're going slightly over. We'll try to wrap it up.
I've got a few more minutes for sure.
Same. I have like another 10. Let's see. I mean, I think it's amazing, right? Where like, if you think about it this way, the workflow from my perspective as like sort of a product design specialist was almost always client has a vision, they communicate it to like a project lead or a director of some sort. They work as designers and researchers to cheaply prototype and validate the idea. Like that's where your best organizations win, is if they're doing upfront research prior to building. That's why the big firms have grown to be the big firms they are. But then they go into development, which historically took way too long, way too many people. And then, 12 months later, you come out with an enterprise product. But based on what Keith's sharing here, and Devin, I'm curious what stands out to you, but if Keith sets up the right rules, the right frameworks, the right structures, is opinionated about patterns and or design patterns in the form of code and logic trees, like his product is technically more whole than ours, or more like poised for implementation. But like my purpose was actually different, right? Like I wanted the cheapest possible way to test the idea. I wasn't actually thinking about a production system at all. And I think both are valid as like what I'm trying to encourage people. Like designers and business owners can get just as into this for a whole different purpose that is complementary to the purpose of software engineers. And now you just do more with 2 people or 2 profiles that used to take like 12 people to do. And like that's what makes me hopeful.
This has been another production of AI DIY. Please reach out in the comments or by email if you'd like to get in touch.